Hi everyone, my name is Jazz and welcome to another episode of Wildlife Matters. We live in an era, a generation wherein individuals are becoming woke. We're starting to ask ourselves difficult questions and giving ourselves a deeper sense of purpose in our lives. Individuals are now finding a purpose for their voice, and we all have a passionate advocacy we want to speak about. I mean, just look at anyone's Facebook page, you'd immediately be able to tell what kind of advocacies they follow. Many advocacies have caused people to create lifestyle changes. Advocacies like veganism, feminism, minimalism, going green, going organic, supporting local, and many more. In fact, more and more people are adapting these lifestyles and taking these advocacies as their own. But there is one advocacy that I'd like more people to focus on. One that is very close to my heart, and that is conservationism. Conservationism is a movement that seeks to protect plants, animals, their habitat, and natural resources. So if feminists are what you call people who support feminism, vegans, what you call people who support veganism, people who support conservationism are called conservationists. In the dictionary, it says a conservationist is a person who believes in or works for the protection of plants, animals, and natural areas, especially from the damaging effects of human activity. Now, I know what you're thinking. When you hear the word conservationist, the first thing that comes to your mind is probably a researcher, a biologist, or a scientist. And while they do provide such a huge contribution to conservation, and I believe they are the backbone of any conservation initiative, what people don't know is that you don't have to necessarily be any of those things to be a conservationist. The truth is, you can be anything you are right now, in any field you're at, and still play a role in conservation. Therefore, anyone can be a conservationist. Another awesome definition of a conservationist came from a Nat Geo article I read that said a conservationist is anyone who dedicates a substantial portion of their time and or resources to conserving biodiversity, single species, or habitats anywhere in the world. So basically, the only capital you'll need to be a conservationist is time, passion, and effort. So the question is, what are the ways that we can practice conservationism? Number one, figure out what your talents are and how you can use them. Perhaps you're a photographer. You can actually use your skills for conservation. I mean, as they say, a picture says 1,000 words. If you're a writer, you can write about animals and conservation. Or I don't know, maybe even write to lawmakers, urging them to create better laws that protect our species. If you're a graphic designer, you can make graphics or posters. I've seen artists make murals and sculptures about conservation. I've seen fashion designers make clothing lines that support conservation. If you're a musician, you can even make music about conservation. Or you can be like me, just a passionate individual who loves to educate and talk about animals. And the list goes on. With whatever God-given talent you have, if you have the heart for protecting our planet, there's always going to be something that you can do. Number two, find out ways that you can take action. That doesn't necessarily mean having to drop everything you're doing to become a scientist or a researcher. Find a cause you feel strongly about and commit yourself to that. Like, for example, saving the thresher sharks or planting native trees, and support that cause or organization. If you can find something you can focus on, you can be more effective and concentrate all your effort on that cause. Find your calling, whatever that cause may be. One that speaks to your heart on a deep emotional level like nothing else, because that means it's something that you're going to be able to commit to. You don't have to carry all the causes on your shoulders. If you can make a difference on one thing, then you've already made an impact on conservation as a whole, because everything is interconnected and every piece of wildlife matters. Number three, be part of a community. Here at Wildlife Matters, we don't want to be just another animal show, but a community of conservationists from diverse fields. And I'm not just talking about scientific fields. We want to discuss conservation issues and lines of action and use all of our diverse talents and resources, whatever they may be, so that we can find ways to take action with the given skill sets we already have. Number four, change your lifestyle. If you've heard of sustainable living, you probably know that a lot of people have taken this lifestyle as their own by choosing to live consciously about the products that they consume in order to reduce their carbon footprint. In the same way, figure out how you can make your lifestyle sustainable. For example, you can try urban farming, or if you're into cats and dogs, you can try fostering or adopting, or even animal rescuing. Or if you can, support trap, neuter, and release programs, because even that is connected to conservation because it's all about population control. You might not know it, but there are so many things you can do, so many choices you can make that actually have an impact on conservation. Number 5, educate yourself. Read up on credible articles, watch documentaries, attend events, not just about animals, but even about communities like our indigenous people, because all of these are connected. I encourage you to read up on your local indigenous communities and maybe get yourself to wonder how these people have learned to live in harmony with nature for so many years. And please do not read up on sources that are purely propaganda. I took a research course in college, and because of that, I've learned to filter my sources. In fact, if I didn't learn to, I probably wouldn't have graduated at all. Credible sources are so important. And if you don't know what a credible source is, credible sources are sources of information that are trustworthy, reliable, and factual. So don't just read up on whatever article is popular at the moment, because honestly, there are just so many fabricated stories and causes on the internet right now. We see them all the time, we don't even know it. So it's important that you're not just believing everything that you see online about conservation. When doing your research, use critical thinking. And if you're not sure how to spot untrustworthy articles, a tip is to search for ones that come from scientific sources. Articles published in popular magazines are a usual suspect of being untrustworthy articles. We should even be picky about the non-profit organizations that we listen to, because there are a lot of them out there that just say stuff based on assumptions and emotions. There are even a lot of groups that claim to do conservation and even post pictures about it, but all of those pictures are fake. And because they're emotionally driven, they're really good at capturing your emotions. Before you know it, you'll be misled and trapped. So be careful. But that's not to say that all magazine articles or all non-profit organizations are fake news. Whatever the case, check the sources and make sure that it's written from a biological background and not just from an emotional and assuming point of view. Look up scientific publications, research papers, and articles from actual conservation organizations. Not just any animal org, okay? There are just so many of them on the internet spreading fake news. Examples of fake news include articles that say animals in cages are abused. Because obviously this is not always true. Because although there are probably cases of animals kept in cages that are being abused somewhere in the world, that doesn't mean to say that all animals kept in cages are being abused, right? So it shouldn't be generalized. Or another example is, if you're familiar with Mali from Manila Zoo, there was a lot of propaganda. I'm not dropping names, but there was a lot of propaganda about how she was being maltreated, and a lot of people wrote articles about her without even doing proper research. I mean, they didn't even spell her name right. A lot of people who wrote articles about her didn't even know anything about her situation, didn't even ask about her situation, or even ask the correct spelling of her name. This kind of fake news doesn't just happen with animals, but even with politics, with global economics, and human rights. I mean, the list goes on. So really, as an individual, you owe it to yourself to be careful about the news that you listen to. Number 6, speak up. Talk to your friends or your kids about conservation. Turn it into a coffee table discussion with friends. Because who knows, you may just be able to educate them about things they're unaware of, or correct misconceptions they probably had. You don't even have to be a scientist to know these things. You just need to be well informed. So those are just a couple of ways that you can help out with conservation. And to end this video, I'd like to leave you with a quote. Conservation needs to become a part of real life, not a fringe activity. And for that to happen, it has to move out of science and into lifestyle. We need to create a culture of conservation. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and don't forget that every piece of wildlife matters.
masungkot si Mali. Kaya inaalagaan ng maayos. Kaya nabibigyan ng enrichment program.
Sa pinakamasarap na trabaho sa buong mundo, sana nakakita ng trabaho kasama mo dito.
Kinagat ako ni Catherine. She stayed Bengal Tiger of 2 months.